This table's for family only. My sister sneered at her engagement party, pointing me toward a chair near the trash. Everyone laughed as I sat alone. Then the $4,800 bill came. The waiter looked at me, and I smiled. Not my table. Imagine years of quietly bending over backward, being the family's go-to fixer, the reliable one, only to have your face slapped with utter disrespect and outright humiliation at the most public, important moment. That's what it felt like when I realized my own sister, my own parents, had deliberately seated me, their family, right next to a trash can at her engagement party. Asterisk asterisk, my name's Steven. I'm 32, and if you're looking for me, I'm probably pouring concrete, framing houses, or, honestly, just carrying a tape measure because it feels wrong not to. My hands are rough, my back complains, but there's a quiet pride in a perfectly tied rebar grid. It's even my phone background. In my family, I was always the one who showed up with the toolbox, the one who did the heavy lifting so no one else had to. Not because I'm some kind of saint, but honestly, it was just easier than arguing. Then there's Kelsey, my younger sister. She's 29. All marketing smiles, perfectly manicured nails, and a fiancé, Ethan, who wears loafers without socks and talks about curating experiences. My parents adore them. They say they have vision. Me? When I talk about digging footings before the frost line, people just nod politely like I'm speaking a foreign language. The engagement party was at one of those places I'd never normally step foot in. White brick, industrial lights, a bar that looked straight out of a magazine. I'd come straight from a job site, so I scrubbed my hands raw with pumice soap in the truck, but I knew the day's grime was still under my nails. I carried Kelsey's requested gift, a fat cash envelope tucked inside a card with a gold bow. Cash is more flexible, she'd said in the family chat. That word stuck with me, flexible. I walked in, and my eyes immediately went to the main table. Long, elegant, with candles flickering and place cards shimmering. Mom, Dad, Aunt Linda, Ethan's parents, Kelsey's Instagram friends, everyone was there. I lifted a hand in greeting. Kelsey saw me, and her smile, the one that sells dreams, just shifted. She floated over, gave me a hug that didn't quite make contact. Hey, Steven, she chirped, a wall of perfume between us. Hey, I mumbled, holding up the card. Congrats. She took it with 2 fingers, like it might smudge her perfect nails, then glanced past my shoulder. I looked at the table again. No empty seat. Just those neat place cards. A tiny, burning rectangle that said, Family. Where should I sit? I asked, trying to keep my voice light, hoping it was some kind of elaborate joke. Kelsey lifted her chin, that marketing smile still plastered on. Sorry, this table's for family only. Then she pointed, a dismissive flick of her wrist, toward the back of the room. We set up a spot for you. I followed her finger past the bar, past the bathroom sign. And there it was, a lonely fold-out chair next to a gray trash can with a swinging lid. On the chair, a paper-wrapped napkin and a fork. No plate. Someone at the main table chuckled. Then another. It rolled down the linen runner like a low, mocking wave. I waited. For a moment, I thought, asterisk any second now. Someone's going to yell, just kidding. Asterisk Ethan leaned back in his chair, loud enough for everyone to hear. We figured you'd want somewhere quiet, man. You know, since you get off work late. My mom didn't even look at me. She just poured herself some water, eyes on her glass, and said to no one in particular, he's fine. My face felt like it was on fire, but my hands stayed perfectly still, clenched by my sides. I stared at the trash can, at the dull silver handle with little fingerprints on it. The service door swung open, and a busser wheeled out a bin of plates. He caught my eye, looked at the chair, looked back at me. He whispered, You good? Like he'd walked into the middle of a private disaster. I'm good, I heard myself say. I grabbed the fold-out chair. The metal legs scraped concrete, a harsh, grating sound that made a few heads turn, then quickly turn away. At the main table, a toast began. I heard my name once, lost in a list of thank yous, and Steven, who's always so reliable. Then the chatter swallowed it whole. From my corner, I could see Kelsey's profile, the perfect swing of her hair, the way she pressed her napkin to her lips after she laughed. My chest felt tight, small, like I was trying to breathe under a crushing weight. A server brought me a plate, balancing it on his arm. Sorry about the seating, he murmured. They told us to put you here. It's fine, I said again, the words tasting like ash. The fork was light. The chair wobbled precariously. Kelsey lifted her glass. "To family," she sang out, loud and bright. Everyone echoed it. I swallowed water that tasted like metal. Halfway through the main course, Dad came over, patted my shoulder. "Don't sulk," he grumbled. "It's Kelsey's night." "I'm not sulking," I retorted, my voice tight. "I'm sitting." He gave me a look that said I was being difficult, then drifted back to the laughter. Then came the cake. The waiter sliced it, starting at the head table, passing plates like treasure. When the tray finally swung my way, Ethan's mother leaned in and whispered something to the server. My plate went past me. Then it passed again. The tray was empty when it reached my side. The busser caught my eye, a sympathetic wince on his face. "I'll check the kitchen," he offered. "Don't worry," I said, folding my napkin with deliberate precision, like it was a blueprint for a life I was about to build. I just watched the candles blink in the air conditioning. Maybe an hour later, the room went quiet. A bill presenter appeared at the head of the table. The manager whispered to Ethan. Ethan, with a sly smile, tapped his knife against his glass. "Okay, team," he announced, like he was leading a meeting. "We've arranged the check a special way." His eyes, full of something I couldn't quite name, locked onto mine across the room. The waiter followed his gaze. The busser, bless him, reappeared and carefully set a small slice of cake on the wobbly corner of my chair. "I'm sorry, man," he breathed. I looked up. The waiter was staring at me, the leather bill folder clutched in his hand. Everyone else was staring too. The air thinned, just like it does when you've crawled into a tight space and suddenly realize you might not fit. My jaw, which had been clenched for hours, unclenched. I smiled. A slow, cold smile. "Not my table," I said. The waiter froze. The laughter didn't come this time. Just ice, and the low hum of a cooler motor behind the swinging door. You see, I didn't always sit by trash cans. It just sort of happened over time. Our house, when we were kids, was a crooked 1960s ranch with a roof Dad always promised to fix. When it rained hard, water tapped into buckets in the hallway. Dad would always say, "Good thing we have a son," and hand me a ladder. Kelsey got piano lessons. I got shingles under my fingernails. By 16, I was on a framing crew during summers and weekends. By 18, I had a reputation for showing up early, hauling more than my weight, never complaining about the heat. I didn't go to college. I never asked my parents for money. I fixed the porch, then the fence, then the plumbing when the kitchen sink coughed brown water. Mom would post a photo. So blessed to have a handy son. When Kelsey moved to the city for her marketing job, I loaded her U-Haul. I drove it. I carried her furniture up 3 flights. I hung her shelves, and I paid the security deposit while she waited for her direct deposit to hit. "I'll pay you back the second I can," she'd said, hugging me hard enough to smell her hairspray. I told her not to worry. 6 months later, when I asked about it, she blinked at me like she'd never heard those words before. "Steven, don't be weird about money. It's family." That became a chorus. "Don't be weird about money. It's family." It came from Mom when she asked me to co-sign her new SUV because her credit score wasn't reflecting her true reliability. It came from Dad when he used my Home Depot card just until payday. But most of all, it came from Kelsey. Brunches charged to my card. Venmo requests that never, ever reversed. Little totals that stopped feeling little when I laid them out, like studs on a sawhorse. I kept a spreadsheet for sanity. Dates, amounts, reasons. $350 for Kelsey's first month of city parking. $780 for her emergency dental work. $1,900 for Ethan's bridge loan when his crypto timed the bottom wrong. $2,500 for Mom's car down payment. $160 here, $120 there. I looked at those columns at night the way you look at a crooked wall, knowing exactly where it's out of plumb. Every time I tried to talk about it, I became the problem. "You're obsessed with keeping score," Mom said once, stirring sugar into her tea. "Your sister needs support while she builds her brand. Kelsey brings opportunities to this family," Dad added. You bring muscle. Both matter." I started saying less. It was easier to carry a beam than to argue about one. The little betrayals got weirder. I found out Kelsey had listed my address on a store credit application because it looked more stable. I discovered my Netflix profile replaced with guest and a kid's profile named after Ethan's dog. When I reset the passwords, Mom called to say I was punishing Kelsey for succeeding. Then came the invite to the engagement party. The group chat exploded with color palettes and signature cocktails. Kelsey sent a registry link with sections labeled must, want, and if you love us. Every item had a note. Cash preferred. I texted, what do you actually need? She replied, a generous brother, smiley face. The week before the party, Kelsey called me on my lunch break. I was sitting on the back bumper of my work truck, eating a ham sandwich. We were looking over the numbers, she chirped, voice bright. And since you're doing great financially, I mean, blue collar, but still, we figured you could take care of the venue minimum. It's only fair. Family shows up. I chewed, swallowed, fought the heat crawling up my neck. How much is the minimum? Don't be weird. Ethan's handling it. Then why are you calling me? She sighed, an exaggerated puff of air. Because we shouldn't have to explain. You know what? Forget it. Just bring the envelope we talked about. Don't be cheap. The call ended. I stared at the parking lot gravel and thought about anchors. The metal kind, epoxy glued into concrete, so beams don't shift when the wind tests them. My boundaries weren't anchors. They were painter's tape. 2 days later, Dad showed up at my duplex with a beer and a speech. He sat at my small table, took a long pull. Your sister is marrying up, he said. Don't mess this up with your pride. You know how you can be. How can I be? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Stubborn, counting pennies. Making everything transactional. Keeping track of money isn't making it transactional. I corrected him. It is a transaction. He waved a dismissive hand. This is bigger than that. It's family positioning. You'll get yours when it's your turn. I didn't say, my turn never comes. I just nodded and put his beer in the fridge. The morning of the party, Kelsey texted a seating chart. My name wasn't on it. I asked, where am I? She replied with a heart and a thumbs up emoji. No seat number. I went anyway. I always go. That's the trap. You go because not going is worse. You go because the story they'll tell if you don't is nastier than the truth if you do. The hostess, when I arrived, looked at her tablet and said, oh, you're Steven. Then she bit her lip like she'd been told a joke and wasn't allowed to laugh. And then there was the chair, the trash can, the laugh that ran like a current, the wobble, the bill folder in the waiter's hand, the heat in my face, the way my mouth shaped, not my table. You ever feel a whole life click into place around a single sentence? That happened. Here's the part no one saw coming. The room didn't know what to do after I said it. The waiter froze, mid-step. Ethan's smile wavered, a flicker of genuine surprise. Mom blinked twice. Then Kelsey cleared her throat. Steven, don't be dramatic, she said, so lightly, like she'd practiced it. We just assumed, you'd be generous. The waiter still held the folder, looking truly stuck. I stood up, slowly, not fast, and the chair scraped again, a warning sound. Help whoever ordered that, I said, nodding at the folder. I'm not on that table's check. I'm on this one. I patted the scarred concrete next to my fold-out. People shifted in their seats, whispered. Ethan, recovering, let out a high, nervous laugh. Dude, relax. It's all in fun. I thought about the spreadsheet. I thought about the cosign. The day I'd trowel the slab in August heat, while Kelsey texted me from a rooftop pool. I thought about anchors. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Mom. Don't embarrass your sister. I put the phone face down and slid my small slice of cake into a napkin. The busser's eyes were soft. You okay? He asked again. Better than I was an hour ago, I said. The manager finally appeared, a careful smile plastered on his face like he was approaching a dog that might bite. Is there a problem? No problem, I said, my voice calm, steady. Just not my table. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I took a breath, and something settled inside me, solid and unmoving, like concrete curing. On my way out, I slipped the card with the cash into the busser's hand. Give this to Kelsey, I said. Or don't. Up to you. Outside, the air was cool, clean. I stood on the sidewalk watching cars slide past. My hands were steady. That felt new. Then my phone lit up. The family group chat. Messages stacked fast. Mom. Steven, where did you go? Dad. You owe your sister an apology. Kelsey. Grow up. Ethan. Asterisk bro. You made the staff uncomfortable. Not a good look. Asterisk Aunt Linda. Asterisk honey. Money comes back. Family doesn't. Asterisk I typed. Deleted. Typed. Deleted. Then I wrote 2 words. I'm done. I put my phone in my pocket and walked to my truck. Somewhere behind me, a waiter was explaining a bill to a table with a pretty runner and little glass candles. The next morning, my front door shook like someone was trying to free it from its hinges. I opened it to find Mom and Dad on my stoop, both in yesterday's clothes. Mom had puffy eyes. Dad had that look he gets when he's already decided he's right. "We need to talk," Mom said, pushing past me. "Coffee?" I asked, out of habit, then hated myself for asking. They sat. Mom didn't. She paced my small kitchen like she was burning a trench. "You humiliated your sister," she spat, her voice sharp, "in front of her future in-laws." Dad folded his arms. "That bill was always going to you. Ethan said it that way because you're the stable one." I leaned on the counter, my arms crossed, mirroring him. "You seated me by a trash can." Mom waved a dismissive hand. "The restaurant messed up. Your daughter pointed me there," I said, and then I actually laughed. She opened her mouth, closed it, then jabbed a finger at me. "You're so sensitive." It was a joke. "You made it ugly." I put my phone on the table, opened the spreadsheet, and turned the screen toward them. Rows and rows. Dates, totals, notes. "What is this?" Dad asked, his voice suddenly quiet. "A list," I said, "of every time I paid. Every time you said it was family. Every time it wasn't a loan, it was an obligation." Mom peered at the numbers, her eyes wide. "You've been keeping track?" She said it like I had kept jars of teeth. "Yes," I said, "because someone had to." Dad's jaw tightened. "You think you're owed for helping your family?" "I think I'm done being your ATM," I said, my voice steady. "I think boundaries are not punishments." Mom crossed her arms over her chest. "So what? You're cutting us off." "I'm cutting off access," I clarified. "To my cards, my accounts, my time when it's not asked for with respect." Dad snorted. "Respect?" "You stormed out." "I left," I said quietly, after being told I wasn't family. Silence. The fridge hummed. Mom's voice softened, like she had switched scripts. "Sweetheart, we didn't mean it that way. Your sister is stressed. Big day emotions. She needs you." "No," I said. One word. It felt like taking the weight off of Jack. Her eyes widened. "What did you say?" "No," I repeated. "Not this time. Not anymore." "The answer is no." Dad stood, hands on the table like he was about to lift it. "You're making a mistake. Family is everything." "Family is not everything." I shot back, meeting his gaze. "Family is people who act like family." Mom's mouth trembled. "We raised you. And I appreciate that," I said. "I also poured your patio, rebuilt your deck, fixed your pipes, and co-signed a car I don't drive. I don't need a medal. I need a seat at the table that isn't next to a trash can." Dad's face flushed crimson. "You're ungrateful." I held his eyes. "I'm done." He took a breath like a bull, then stopped. Maybe he saw something in my face he hadn't seen before. Maybe he remembered the weight I carry all day and realized I could carry a fight, too. Mom switched tactics again. "Tears. If you don't help with the bill, your sister can't cover the difference. The venue charged a service fee. They'll put it on her credit. She'll be ruined." I wanted to laugh. Not because debt is funny, but because of the sheer theater of it all. "How much?" I asked. She brightened, quick. "Only $4,800. I nodded. "Then she and Ethan can pay it. It's their party." Mom stared. "You always were crueler than you look." Dad grabbed the doorknob. "We'll remember this." "I'm counting on it," I said. They left. The door closed. I stood in the quiet and felt my hands shake for the first time. Not fear. Adrenaline. And the absence of something I'd carried for years. My phone started again. Kelsey. Then Kelsey again. Then Ethan. Then Aunt Linda. I let them all go to voicemail. Then I sent one text to the group. "If you need a contractor, get a quote. If you need money, go to a bank. If you need me, try respect." That afternoon, I went to the job site and tied rebar with a speed I hadn't felt since I was 19. Every twist was a sentence I hadn't said for a decade. Asterisk no. Not this time. I won't. Not my table. Asterisk that night. Someone slid an envelope under my door. I opened it with a utility knife. Inside, a printout of the bill, a blurry photo from the party, and a note in Kelsey's handwriting. "You did this. Fix it." I took a picture of the note, filed it in a folder on my computer, and put the original in the junk drawer with rubber bands and old screws. The photo showed me in the background, by the trash can, eating cake. I printed that one and taped it to my fridge. The first day after a boundary is quiet. People wait to see if you meant it. The second day gets loud. I woke up to 26 missed calls and a new group chat titled Family Intervention. The first message was from Aunt Linda. We need to reset expectations. The second from Mom. Asterisk, your sister's credit card was declined at the dress fitting because of the venue hold. She's hysterical. Fix this. Asterisk, I made coffee and read every message like it was a work order. Then I put my phone face down and ate my eggs. At 9:07 a.m., Kelsey showed up at my place with Ethan, both in sunglasses. She didn't knock. She rattled the handle until I opened. You're unbelievable, she cried, sweeping in. Do you know what you've done? Set a boundary, I said, stepping aside just enough so they couldn't push past me. Ethan tried to smile. Bro, no hard feelings about the seating. That was Kelsey's idea. We were playing. Kelsey shot him a death glare. Ethan then turned back to me. The venue charged my card. It overdraft. I have a blocked account now. Do you understand overdrafts? I do, I said. Banks charge fees when you spend money you don't have. Her jaw worked. You've always been jealous. Of what? I asked. Of my life, she said, gesturing at her outfit, her ring. Of people liking me. Of not having to live covered in dust. I looked at my hands, the small cuts, the quiet strength. I like my life, I said. Ethan exhaled. We just need you to front the difference until the wedding gifts clear. There are no wedding gifts, I said. This was your engagement party. He blinked. Semantics. Kelsey leaned in, her voice low and venomous. Mom and Dad said, you do the right thing. Don't make them choose. They already chose, I said. They sat at your table while I ate by the trash. She threw up her hands. God, you're dramatic. Fine. She dug into her purse and slapped my card, the one I'd canceled 3 months ago, onto my counter. My card. The one I'd canceled. Happy. We found this in Mom's junk drawer. Was that part of your spreadsheet too? I picked up the card, turned it in my fingers like a fossil. Leave, I said. She scoffed. You can't kick me out of my brother's house. I can't, I said, and opened the door wider. Ethan tried for a final move. We'll tell everyone you refused to help your own sister with a basic family expense. You already did, I said. It didn't work. They left. The hallway smelled like her perfume for an hour. At noon, my boss pulled me aside. You okay? He asked. Your mom called the office. She did what? Said there was a family emergency and you'd need an advance. I told her we don't do that for anyone. He looked at me over his glasses. You want to take the afternoon? No, I said. I want to pour. We poured a walkway behind a small brick house for a retired teacher. She brought us lemonade and told us her late husband used to lay tile. I liked the way she said used to without apology. When we finished, I troweled the edges until they were clean enough to see a reflection. On the drive home, my phone buzzed again. Cousin Mark. Hey man, he said when I answered. I heard there's drama. Just so you know, people are saying you try to stiff the staff. I laughed. One short, sharp sound. The staff is the only reason I didn't walk out sooner. They were kind. Mark hesitated. I believe you. For what it's worth. It's worth something, I said. That night, I changed passwords I should have changed months ago. I removed devices from accounts. I shut down an old shared phone plan I'd kept because Mom didn't like new carriers. I got 3 angry texts inside 10 minutes. What did you do to my Spotify, Steven? My phone stopped working. Asterisk wow. Petty. Asterisk I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and slept like I had after my first full week on the framing crew, heavy and unbothered. By day 3, the storm turned. The group chat got quieter, then split into side messages I wasn't in. Aunt Linda texted me. I don't agree with how they treated you. A cousin DM'd me a photo from the party I hadn't seen. Kelsey, smirking, her finger pointed at me in the background by the trash can. He added, I left early. Felt gross. I started hearing through sideways channels that the bill had been divided the old-fashioned way. In the end, Ethan's dad covered half with a tight face. Kelsey's bridesmaids split a chunk, and my parents maxed a card they were hoping to keep clean for a trip. People were mad. Not at me. At the awkward truth, sitting right in the middle of their pretty runner. Mom called again and left a long voicemail that began with, I hope you're happy, and ended with, when you need us, don't expect us to show up. I saved it with the others in a folder named Policy. I went to work. I came home. I did not answer the door when someone pounded late and shouted my name. I bought a new deadbolt, installed it, and oiled the hinges, all on my own time. The quiet after that was different. It wasn't punishment. It was space. And in that space, other things grew. I said yes to a Saturday side job for a woman who needed a wall opened between her kitchen and dining room. She told me her contractor ran off mid-project. I finished the framing in a day, called an electrician I trust, and left the place broom clean. She paid me, then pressed a tip into my hand like I'd returned something she thought was gone forever. "You were respectful," she said, like it surprised her. I shrugged and said, "It's not hard." I started lifting weights with a friend in the mornings again. Pulled my old bike out of the shed. Fixed a squeak that had been bothering me for 2 years in a cabinet door because it bothered me, not because someone else complained. A week later, Kelsey emailed me a spreadsheet of her own. The subject line, "Here." It was a list of what our family has done for you. There was unpaid rent from when I lived at home at 19. I paid it. We both knew it. 3 dinners from 2015. A list of Christmas gifts. And a note that read, "Mom carried you for 9 months." I replied with one sentence, "Thanks for the list. No reimbursements approved." She didn't write back. She posted on Instagram instead, a story with the words, "Blood isn't everything," over a boomerang of champagne. I laughed out loud. Then I closed the app and didn't open it again for a week. Real life moved. I took a small vacation day and drove to the lake with a thermos of coffee. I watched a guy teach his kid how to skip stones. I thought about my future the way you think about a deck you might add. Where the sun falls. How the weight will sit. What anchors you need so it doesn't tilt under guests. On Sunday, I got a text from Dad. "No hello. Just, we're selling the house. We'll need your help moving." I typed, "Hire movers." He replied, "We can't afford that." I asked, "How much was the engagement party?" He didn't answer. Monday, my foreman asked if I wanted to take on a crew lead spot that was opening up. "You've got the calm people listen to," he said. "And the spine." I almost said I wasn't ready. Then I thought about that chair by that trash can and said, "I am." 2 weeks after the party, I went over to Mom and Dad's because Mom texted about a leak. Not as a son, as a contractor. I brought an invoice pad. Mom answered with red eyes, like she'd rehearsed them. "So you'll help?" she said, relieved. "I'll take a look," I said. "My rate is on the invoice." She froze. "You're charging your mother?" "I'm charging a client," I said, meeting her stare. "Family rates are for family." She swallowed hard and stepped aside. The leak was a bad wax ring on the upstairs toilet. I replaced it in 40 minutes. When I finished, I handed her the invoice. She signed. Her hand shook, but she signed. On my way out, Dad leaned in the doorway, voice low. "You think you're better than us now?" "No," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "Just not worse." I drove home with a copy of the invoice on the passenger seat. It felt like a receipt for air. A month later, silence. I skipped the wedding. Not my table. Set anchors for my pergola. Blocked the venue call. And wrote the last line on my spreadsheet. Boundary, $0 paid.